So here on page 2, for this function y equals absolute value of x plus 2 minus 1, find the following. What family does it belong to? So it's either the constant family, y equals some number, linear, y equals mx plus b, quadratic, an x squared, absolute value, which it is because it has absolute values, or cubic, that's x to the third power. Okay, so we're going to choose an absolute value function here. What's the domain? Now, to get your domain, what you have to do is you have to graph this thing and take a look at him. So I've got him over here on my calculator. I've typed him in. Remember, if you need to get to the absolute value, you have to press the math button. And once you press math, it's under numbers at the very top. So I'm going to go back now and just show you my graph. So there it is. And what I want to find is I want to find this lowest point right here. So I'm going to take a quick picture so I can draw on this. Let's pull that thing up. So I'm looking for this point right there. And on your calculator, you can use the trace button, and you could walk right down here until you got really close to it. Eventually, you'll get so close you'd recognize that that is located at the point -2, -1. Note the equation over here. That x plus 2 and that -1, that is very closely related to these points. And we'll be talking about that later. But it's enough for right now to say, hey, this graph goes forever this way and forever that way. That's the x directions. And it continually goes up and to the right there. So for domain, we're going to put all real numbers. It goes forever. Now, if we want to write this as an inequality, we write negative infinity is less than x is less than infinity. And if we want to write it in interval notation, we just put parentheses around it. Say it goes from negative infinity to infinity. If we wanted to get really particular, we'd say x is a member of this group. That's what that symbol means there. Easy enough. Now that we know that lowest point, we can also now answer this second question here. What is the range? So for the range, now we're going to look at the y stuff. So here's our y-axis right here. And this blue line, you can see the graph starts right at that vertex. Okay, so it starts right when the y value is -1. And then the graph proceeds to go up either direction. It just is going up all the time. So we're just going to say, well, y is greater than or equal to -1, that lowest y value. So we'll write y is greater than or equal to -1, or if we did interval notation, it would be from -1 to infinity, like so, to describe the y values. All right, so we've answered those two questions. I'm going to go ahead and write down what we said the domain was. Domain is equal to all real numbers, or it's equal to from negative infinity to positive infinity in inequality notation, or from negative infinity to infinity in interval notation. And our range, we said the range is y is greater than or equal to -1, or we could say from -1 to infinity, like so. Next question, problem number 6. I apologize for my dog. Same deal here for this function, 5x squared minus 2. What does it belong to? Well, this is quadratic. Remember, quadratic is x squared equations. For domain and range, let's go ahead and look at him. So I'm going to my calculator here, and I'm going to put in 5x squared minus 2, and I'll zoom 6 that. There we go. You can see that lowest point on that parabola. And so I'm just going to hit my trace button here, and you'll see as I start walking along the curve, you can see my cursor moving there, and I'm going for that lowest point. You'll notice I have a peculiar readout down here at the bottom, and I'm going to point that out to you here. If you look really close, when I found that bottom part, this point right here, it gives me this number, and the y value is -2. Well, that y value is important because this parabola starts when y is -2 and it goes up. So there's my range. Y is greater than or equal to -2. But I want to discuss this number here. This is -5.5 with this e -17. Well, that means -5.5, I'm going to round it there, times 10 to the -17. That actually means scientific notation. So this number is negative point, and then I'd have to put 16 zeros here, and then I'd finally get 5, 5. I don't know if that's 16 zeros or not. The point is, this is an incredibly small number. This is what happens with calculators sometimes. You get a little error in there, and this little error causes this number to not quite equal 0. But without that error, that's what it would be. So when you see a really tiny, tiny, tiny number like that, it's supposed to be a 0. But regardless, that is our domain. And so we can go ahead, or rather our range, domain, all real numbers. This thing goes left forever and right forever. It just keeps going up and getting wider and wider as it goes up. So all real numbers here, or negative infinity to positive infinity, or the interval negative infinity to positive infinity, and our range, the y values, it starts at -2 and goes up. So -2 to infinity, like so. Problem number 7. Oops, let's write those in there real quick. All real numbers, negative infinity to positive infinity, like so. And y is greater than or equal to -2. 2 to come up infinity, like so. Next problem, number 7 here, determine the equation of the line. When we hear that, we right away think this equation. This equation requires 2 ingredients. It requires a point, an x1 and a y1, and it requires a slope, an m. Well, in the problem, they tell us the point that we want our line to go through, so we know our x1 and y1. They tell us a slope, so we know what our m is, and therefore we can rewrite this equation in red here as y minus 1, which is 6, equals m, which is 2, parentheses x minus x1, which is -3. So we get a little double negative there. And let's see if I can slide over, give myself a little bit more room here. And so let's just continue to work this. Now you can see we end up with some double negative in there. So that's just y minus 6 equals 2 times x plus 3. Now you're ready to distribute. Make sure you distribute before you add or subtract. And then you add that 6 to get the y alone. So we get 2x plus 12. And there we go. That's the line that goes through the points -4, 8, and 3, -2. And don't forget, you could check that on your calculator very quickly. All you have to do is graph your answer, 2x plus 12, zoom 6 it, and then you can hit the trace button and walk along it and try and check those points. Or you can just type in one of your points. In this case, I'll type in the -4. And you can see right down here at the bottom, it says -4 goes with, -4 goes with 4. That means I've made a mistake. Let's see if I can figure out where I made my mistake at. -3 and 6. See, my slope was 2. Oh, sorry, I just tested the wrong points. The point I should have tested, rather, is this -3, 6. So I'll type in -3, enter 6, and now you can see it does go through -3, 6, so I have the right equation. Problem number 8, find the slope of this line. Okay, so they just give you 2 points. Here's our slope equation. People often ask which one's x1, y1. Well, I generally say, well, the first point, it makes sense to call it x1 and y1. And the second point, to call it x sub 2 and y sub 2, just indicate it as point 2. It is direct substitution now. Y2, negative 2, minus Y1, 8, over X2, 3, minus X1, which is negative 4. So we had negative 2 minus 8. There's a double negative, giving us 3 plus 4, 7. Negative 10 sevenths is the slope. Number 9, determine the equation of the line. Again, as soon as you see that, write down your point slope equation. And realize that you need to have a point and a slope. So the point we use is, again, we label these x1, y1. So there's our point, x1, y1. And our slope, we're going to have to calculate that. Okay, so we would use our slope equation. Now, fortunately, if you notice up here, negative 4, 8, 3, negative 2, negative 4, 8, 3, negative 2. So I've already calculated my slope for this problem. It's negative 10 over 7. And so now we can write the equation. Y minus my y1, that's my 8, equals my slope, which I've already previously calculated, times x minus my x value, which is negative 4. Negative 4 is plus 4. Okay, so now we have to distribute this 10 sevenths, or negative 10 sevenths. And a lot of students kind of get a little worried about that, but don't. The math looks like this. We got our y minus 8 on the left, negative 10 sevenths, times this 1 in front of the x is just negative 10 sevenths. So we get negative 10 sevenths x. Now we have to take negative 10 sevenths times 7. And so one way you can do that is just run over to your calculator here. I'm at my home screen. And just type in negative 10 sevenths. So I use my division button. Times 4. Then I hit math. Then I hit fraction. And I hit enter. It tells me it is negative 40 over 7. Now, ideally, you wouldn't have to use your calculator for this, because negative 10 sevenths times 4, all you have to do is multiply the numerators, which is negative 40, and then multiply those denominators. 1 times 7 is your 7. So we're now down to our final step to get y all alone. Add that 8 to both sides, and you will be done. So y equals negative 10 over 7x. And now I've got to get up my calculator again. I've already got negative 47s on it. I just have to hit plus 8. And I'm going to go math, fraction again. And it tells me it's 16 over 7. Now again, we are going to check this thing really quickly. So I'm going to graph in. I'm going to type in negative 10 divided by 7x. Not divided by 7x, divided by 7 times x. Then plus 16 divided by 7, math, or zoom 6. Let's test one of our points up here. We have the point negative 4, 8. So I'm going to type trace, negative 4. And you can see at the bottom, way down there at the bottom of my graph, it says negative 4 goes with 8. And then I'll type in the number 3, hit enter, and it tells me 3 goes with negative 2. So I'm certain it goes through those 2 points. 2 points define a line, so I know I'm done. And I am correct with that solution. Let's see if I can move any of this stuff. Not going to let me. All right, so here comes number 10. Determine the equation of the line. So let's see if we can section all that stuff off. Determine the equation of the line. So I'm going to write this guy down again. I'm going to realize I need a point. See, they gave me a point. What else do I need to know about this line? It's parallel to this line. And there's the key thing. Because it is parallel, it's got to have the same slope as this line. So this line has a slope of negative 3. So if I'm parallel, I got to have a slope of negative 3. And once I've made that assumption or realization, I can just start substituting in y minus y1, m times x minus x1. That double negative gives you plus 4. Distribute, distribute. throw your 2 over by adding it to both sides. All right, it's got the right slope. So these two lines have exactly a slope of -3, so they will be parallel to each other. And our line has a y-intercept of -10. And that is